'Cause when Jonas Ball is always coming through. And all green is always on the sea. And what the always brings to life, singing. So get ready, get ready, 'cause here they come.
All right, welcome aboard, everybody. Green background means only one thing. Time to talk Jets. Jets. Heck, it may be the offseason, but it doesn't feel like it. I mean, what a week we've had here in the NFL. 2 blockbuster trades, one expected, one kind of like, wow, what just happened? A team going for it all. OTAs going on, particularly with the New York Jets. So we'll talk about that as well. Let's bring in our Jets insider. He talks Jets with us each and every week. The one, the only for the Jake Asman Show at ESPN New York, Jake Asman. Hey, Jake, how are you?
Let's go Knicks. How we doing, fellas?
Ready, man. I'm all geared up, man. Game 1 tonight. This is staying on me, man. New hat. I'm ready, Jake.
I see the background keeps adding new Knicks pieces. We get the
Yes,
chain.
you see
We
my
got that.
Brunson.
So
You got my Brunson jersey back
it
there.
seems
I
like
got
you too.
lights,
So all of you,
lights,
both of you, are just
shirt.
adding more Knicks stuff in your background every time I talk to you. Nice.
That's right.
Gotta get on the fervor, man. It's a fervor. It's been 27 years, 53 since the championship. Come on, man. If you can't get excited about that, I mean, you just wasted your time. So,
Waited
get
a
in.
long time, man. Very long time. Never thought I'd see this a lot of years, and here we are.
So
right,
we could start a little Knicks lurch.
Yeah, go ahead. All right, sure, go ahead.
And just to say this, like I was curious how Knicks fans would be, because some, right, the championship hasn't happened since '73, so some would be like, "Oh, who cares? We're just gonna go to the finals, get beat by whoever comes out of the West." But the current temperature of the two guys that are on the opposite sides to me here is Jake. I've heard you plenty talking about it, and that you felt confident whoever the Knicks would have faced in the NBA Finals, and now you get the Spurs, which would have been your preferred. And I've heard Lurch, for the most part, you've been confident that you think the Knicks are going to handle business. So to me, that's refreshing. I didn't know if there'd be a few Knicks fans down in the dumps a little bit about whatever West team came out. So I like that. Jake, you first.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of confidence because of what the Knicks have done during this playoff run, right? I mean, they have played as well as you could possibly play. They've won by a historic amount in their most recent series and in their current 11-game winning streak. So if you can't be confident now, when can you be confident? Because I know they're an underdog in the series, but the way the Knicks are playing, this is not the team that we saw in the regular season. Something changed when they lost that game in Atlanta to the Hawks the night of the NFL draft. They haven't lost since, and every Knick fan knows if it's tight late, we feel like we got the best player on the floor, and that's in Jalen Brunson. And Wembanyama will have his day. I'm sure he's going to win many titles in his career, but if you're the Knicks, the best chance to get him is right now, and that's right, not this one. This is the Knicks title. They got to get it.
We're Kurt Russell. Not tonight, my friends. Not tonight. Not this series. Not this year. Not 2026. I'll echo what Jake says, and I'll add one other thing to it that really has beleaguered the Knicks in the last couple of years, and that is health. And with all this rest and just coming into the playoffs with a relatively healthy roster, the one little blip with OG Anunoby, and of course, the one guy that we are all worried about right now, Mitchell Robinson, and whatever the heck he did off the court, because now we have determined apparently that it wasn't practice and it wasn't in games. So I don't know if he's skateboarding or fooling around with one of his monster pickup trucks there. But whatever the heck it was, he's got that injured pinky finger, but he was at practice yesterday. It does look like he's going to play. The thing he was wearing, this black contraption, didn't look like it was really inhibiting him. It was not like he had a club on his hand, and you're like, how's he going to catch the ball or shoot the ball? He's already not a good shooter anyway, so I'm sure he can take an alley-oop and throw it down with the other fingers. So anyway, I think Mitch is in the fold. I think he's going to be okay, and I think health is a big, big part of what has made this, I think, even more juice for Knick fans that they can win this thing.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, he's a big part of this because if Cat gets into foul trouble, you're going to need Mitchell Robinson. And look, he's not a great offensive player, but he's valuable on that side of the floor. He sets hard screens. Him and Brunson have the pick and roll game going. He's good for, several offensive rebounds a night that keep possessions alive. I mean, if you go back to the NBA Cup matchup when the Knicks came back in the fourth against these Spurs, Mitchell Robinson finished with like 9 offensive rebounds in that game. He was huge in that fourth quarter, especially. So he's vital. Plus, obviously, his defense and what he could bring trying to wear down Victor Wembanyama over the course of the series. So I'm a little concerned about it, but he's going to give it a go and play tonight. We'll see what version of Mitch we get. It'd be funny if he actually hits a couple free throws tonight and improves his shooting after all this.
Well, the one thing we don't want to see is Huck Porty in there for the Knicks unless they're up by 30 in the fourth quarter. That's the only time we want to see that guy. We don't want to see him having to go out there and defend during important moments because he is a foul waiting to happen. Go ahead, BG.
Yeah, no, the only last thing I'll do on this next stuff is, Jake, you guys did not, when you guys won the NBA Cup, the banner was not raised. Is that correct?
That's correct. We did not raise the banner.
Okay. So if you win the championship, are you feeling more comfortable? Yeah, let's throw out the NBA Cup banner too now because, we also got the championship. So is that like a double banner raise? What happens there?
I forget who said it. Someone suggested the Knicks raise the NBA Cup banner as a troll job to the Spurs before Game 3. Okay. Look, I agree with the decision to not raise it in real time. Look, it was nice to win. If you're going to compete in something, you play to win. I get all that. Herm Edwards, the whole thing. But I thought it was the right move at the time. If they win the championship and then they want to raise the cup banner, that's fine because you won the championship. But I was in favor of them not. I supported Dolan's decision to not raise that banner when that story came out.
Yeah.
That is funny. I did not hear about the Game 3 thing. That all right, Spurs, hang on tight. The banner being raised.
Right, delay the game 10 minutes and a banner to be raised by the Knicks. Didn't get to do this earlier in the season.
Yeah,
so
won't be the only one we raise. Anywho, yeah,
one of many banners to be raised here at Madison Square Garden. Oh my goodness. Oh Lord. It's going to be fun. Before we move on to Jet stuff, prediction, Jake. I'm going to assume you're taking the Knicks. I certainly am. Knicks and how many?
I'm going to say Knicks and 6. Set up the party of all parties. Win the championship at home. It's crazy. I think they could win before 6.
That's what I said today. Yep, I agree with you.
Like the people talking about the Spurs, if you really break it down, they're young. And Wembanyama, I think, could wear out over the course of the series. I think the Knicks experience matters here. I think if you look at NBA history, typically you got to lose before you could win, and the Spurs are doing this for the first time. I mean, it's Wemby's first playoff run, and I think some of the matchups really favored the Knicks here, right? Obviously, Mitchell Robinson's a big part of that, but who's guarding Karl Anthony Towns in their team? They can put Wembanyama on him. You're going to tell me, Cornette is going to guard him. They're going to play Harrison Barnes a lot more. I just think there's a lot of advantageous matchups that the Knicks hopefully can exploit, and Mike Brown, I think, has done a great job from Game 3 on, really. So I think the Knicks can exploit some of these matchups that we've covered ad nauseum the last 9 days getting ready for this. I feel good about the Knicks' chances. I'll say Knicks in 6 because it's not supposed to be easy to win a championship. So I'm sure there'll be some stressful moments, but I think the Knicks find a way to get it done.
And what's developed over this run, too, Jake, is that while, of course, Brunson is the most important guy, and if there are game-winning situations, we're going to want the ball in his hands as a Knicks fan. But the fact of the matter is that this team, over the course of this 11-game winning streaks and an evolution of this team maybe over the course of the season, have proven that a lot of guys, like Brunson doesn't have to score 30 for them to win. Anunoby can really show up for games. Bridges has been playing outstanding lately. Towns obviously has his hot nights where he becomes a big scoring threat. And even those bench guys, Alvarado gets in there and contributes. On and on it goes. The depth of this team it really shows itself. And there isn't a fear to put Landry Shamet in the game, man, because that guy, he's making big shots for the Knicks. There's a lot of guys on that bench that can make big shots. So if somebody's having an off night, there are options. And I really like the Knicks' options this year. I think they did a really good job during the offseason, keeping certain guys, and then at that trade deadline, tweaking that roster a little bit. I thought they did an outstanding job, and it's proven here as we run into the playoffs deep.
I agree with you, and I think Mike Brown deserves credit for empowering his bench throughout the year. So guys were ready to go when their name was called. I mean, Landry Shamet has been incredible. He's won them playoff games with his shooting. I mean, they don't come back the way they did in that historic Game 1 against Cleveland without him doing what he did. I mean, I don't know if he's going to shoot 90% from 3 again in the NBA Finals like he did in the conference finals, but, if Josh Hart struggles early, if he's not hitting shots when they leave him wide open, I don't think Mike Brown's going to be afraid to play a 5-out lineup and go to Shamet to give a real opportunity to Jordan Clarkson. Deuce McBride, I could see having several big moments in this series with his three-point shot ability. So I agree with you. The fact that the Knicks have been able to win in a multitude of ways during this run is why I think a lot of Knicks fans are confident. Like in the past, it's if Jalen Brunson doesn't score 40 a night in these playoff games and carry them, they'd have a tough time winning. And I think against Indiana last year, he wore down as that series went on. This year, the Knicks offense is so diverse, so many guys can beat you that you have Brunson. You feel great if it's tight in the fourth. You got that guy with the ball in his hands. But getting to that moment, there's so many guys that can help you there, and that keeps Jalen fresh when they need him. The craziest stat of all, I think I said this last week with you guys, Jalen Brunson has yet to play a minute in any of the Knicks closeout games in the fourth quarter. So the Knicks have this historic amount of rest, I think, over the course of a series. That should hopefully help the Knicks' chances.
Yeah, no question about it. It's just different. And the Knicks are very well rested. You got a team coming off a 7-game series. You got a team that's been sitting around, hasn't hardly played. I hope that doesn't become a detriment again here in the early stages of this series, like it almost did in that Cavs series in game 1, and then it resulted in an epic comeback win. That's probably my only fear in this series, is that the Knicks could start this series a little rusty. But it seems like they're doing a lot of things behind the scenes, learning their lesson from that Cleveland game to say, let's try to do everything we can here to make sure that doesn't happen again. We'll see if you can you do that on the practice court? That's always questionable. Games are games, and it's a different world. So, Manchild,
8 games in 35 days. Think about that. They played 8 total games the last 35 days. The last time they lost a game, I was in Pittsburgh at the NFL draft. And that was the last time they lost. So it's a crazy run they've been on. It really is
incredible for the NBA to have that many days off. And I definitely think if this series does go long, it's going to benefit New York. It just has to. I mean, you just have fresher legs. Every guy in the team has been getting all that rest. So that's a big, big thing. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. We are presented today by Northeast Roofing Professionals. Today's video brought to you by our friends at Bayberry Automotive, integrity in everything. Please like the video on your way in. And if you're not already a subscriber, right there's the link, youtube.com/at MC Show Digital. We'll take a quick 30-second break. We're back, and then we're going to shift gears, talk some Jets with Jake. Stick around. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital. More coming up.
Integrity is a word that some people just throw around in life. But at Bayberry Automotive, integrity is everything. Integrity of their mechanics, who are all experienced and certified. Integrity in the work they perform, with nothing but 5-star reviews from satisfied customers on Google. Integrity that goes along with family. A family-run business that treats you like one of their own. Integrity in everything. Bayberry Automotive. BayberryAutomotive.com.
Located on Route 57 across from Bayberry Plaza, the premier choice for auto repair in Liverpool.
All right, we are back. We're talking all things Jets. We're inside the Jets. Jake Asman, the Jake Asman Show, ESPN New York, joining myself and Boy Green. Jake, I know OTAs have been going on with the Jets, and coming out of this, I want to talk to you about kind of a bigger picture thing, and maybe OTAs helps clear this up a little bit. But when you think about the Jets this upcoming season, who are the players that you think are going to be key impact guys that you're really keeping your eye on that could make or break whether the Jets have a better season or a poor season? Let's talk about that.
I mean, Geno Smith's obvious. He's the quarterback. We don't need to spend a whole lot of time on that for obvious reasons. They didn't have any semblance of competent quarterback play for the vast majority of their games last year. I think with Geno, you got a much better chance of just getting a normal pedestrian-like quarterback season. And if you get that, I think you got a chance. Now, some of the other names that have to emerge for you to actually have a real season, I think you got to look at the pass catchers they drafted. Omar Cooper Jr., Kenyon Sadiq. They use first-round picks on these guys. They got to play a role, and they got to play a role right away, and they got to help complement what they already have in-house with Garrett Wilson, Mason Taylor, and sounds like A.D. Mitchell's played really well so far in some of these OTAs, which is encouraging. I think you need some of those rookie pass catchers to not necessarily play like rookies for a lot of the year. They got to be impactful. And if you're staying with the offensive side of the ball, Breece Hall got paid like he's a top 5 running back. Feed him, utilize him. Frank Reich designed ways to get him the football in space as a receiver, as someone who could give you a lot, as a runner, of course, out of the backfield. I think this has got to be the best season of Breece's career if this team's going to overachieve expectations.
And one of those pass catchers, I saw Zach Rosenblatt's piece from The Athletic. He says, like, it's almost the perfect marriage. Geno Smith will recklessly throw the ball down the field, and Adonai Mitchell's calling card is those deep shots down the field. We have not seen those vertical chunks. We certainly didn't see that with Justin Fields on any level of a consistent basis last season. Does that excite you? Does that let your mind wander on Geno Smith to the A.D. Mitchell connection, Jake Asman?
Absolutely. I mean, He is someone that had first-round talent, they said. He was a high second-round pick. So, all of a sudden you put him in the right situation where you could basically tap into his strengths. And, Zach is actually coming on my afternoon stream today on YouTube. Wow. So we'll talk more about this with him. I'm excited to see what A.D. Mitchell could do. I don't want to go crazy over, padless OTAs in late May, early June, but he's talented. We saw the potential. I go back to that Thursday night game where the Jets lost to the Patriots, and Justin Fields really struggled that night. But you look at some of the replays, A.D. Mitchell was getting open against Christian Gonzalez. He was separating. You saw that. And that's one of the best corners in the league. I think Mitchell's speed tapped with Geno's ability to throw downfield. at least should give us some exciting plays throughout the year with those two being able to make some plays, hopefully for big completions.
Jake, I'm also hearing a pretty good vibe. At least it seems to be a unified vibe from many of the Jets players who have been interviewed during OTAs and even leading up to OTAs uh, about Aaron Glenn and his leadership and whether or not, his words are still landing with these players. And it sounds unanimously like the team is behind him. So give me your take on that, because he's coming off a very difficult first season that had a lot of people squawking about should he even keep his job. He gets another chance here. It does sound like the team is still listening. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think Glenn, to his credit, as a former player, he is someone that I think guys like to root for. I think guys like him as a person. I think he is, someone that obviously comes from Detroit where they had success. So I do think you get like that initial buy-in from players that, here's a guy who was a Jet, been an experienced assistant coach. I think all that is great right now. The real test will be if they face some early season adversity. Are guys still bought in? I have no doubt they're bought in now. You basically turned over the vast majority of the roster. You infused veteran leadership. You infused some young talent, 4 picks in the top 50. Like, I'm not surprised that there's, a lot of support for Aaron Glenn. They haven't played any games yet, and so much of the roster is new. I think the real test will be, what happens if they lose week 1 to Robert Saleh? Does that crumble them, or do they respond and then find a way to not start 0-2? They beat the Packers in their home opener. Or what happens if they are rolling early and then they face some adversity? Do they just fall apart like a lot of times the Robert Saleh teams did? So I think with Glenn, he obviously needs to improve in all areas, but I don't think he ever lost the team as far as like guys didn't like him or they won't play for him. I think they'll play for him. It's just, does he kind of have all the other things you need to do to be a successful head coach?
And Jake, maybe your answer is going to be similar here for this, but there's 2 things I noticed to Lurch's point about the players mentioning comments. Several players mentioned the urgency that Aaron Glenn, it seems like, wow, not only do I want to prove myself to the rest of the league, I want to prove to each and one of you that I can turn this around, I can make it happen. And secondly, I've noticed it during the media so far that we haven't had any, what's the word? Sassy
Rashness.
and rashness, whatever the word. Like, he hasn't, given a sideways look to a question, and he's gone out of his way, at least to me, when I watch all the media opportunities with Aaron Glenn, that he's explaining himself. Hey, here's what we're doing today. 3rd and 7s. It's going to be a little bit more challenging on the offense. Good for defense. Here's what to look out for. Like, he's just explaining himself a lot more. He's explaining the why. It seems like he's not taking issue with, media reporters. Now, I know none of that means anything if he doesn't win games, but have you noticed any of that with Aaron Glenn so far this offseason?
I definitely think his temperament has been a lot less hostile than it was at times last year. I also think that's kind of what happens when you have the year he did. I mean, they won 3 games. They were historically bad the last 5. There was a lot of talk on whether or not he was going to be fired. Like, if he came in and had the same exact attitude after they won 3 games, how would that go? Right? That wouldn't
So
go
is he
well.
just humble, do you think, Jake?
I think he was humbled, and I do think that I know this for a fact. People spoke to him this offseason and said, you got to cool it with the media. Like, they're not your enemy. You don't need to treat them so adversarial, right away. Like, there's going to be moments where I'm sure you'll get upset or frustrated with a line of questioning, but you don't need to like be in attack mode before anything has happened. You know what I mean? I know that someone very close to Aaron Glenn basically gave him that advice. So I guess I'm not totally surprised. I think the real test will be training camp. He's talking every day. Does he get annoyed with any of the questioning? What happens again if they lose week 1? I think week 1 is such an important game for the Jets. How does he handle the first sign of true adversity if they lose to Robert Saleh in the opener?
Well, I'm glad to hear he's not talking about his superpowers anymore. I mean, superpower to lose apparently was the superpower that he had last year.
Geno Smith to the promised land. He hasn't created any like memeable headline in a while.
Right.
So I guess that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, you don't want to be showing up on Instagram and Twitter regularly,
No.
being memed to death. I mean, that's a wise choice. It also is easier, BG, at this time of year, to be this calm, cool, collected. I'll answer and explain things. And
he's speaking once a week, to
right,
Jake's point, of like some of these memeable moments in training camp. He's talking like 2 or 3 times a week. So like the opportunities to mess up, for lack of a better word, are more prone and there's going to be more intense things to talk about. So
Yeah, and coming out of games, I mean, you're getting, what happened there? Why'd you make that call? When you lose a game,
that timeout
people are going to look at the
situation, right.
critical moments of the game and question the coach's decision making,
Sure.
and then it becomes this warfare of how well do you handle that. And he's proven so far, at least in his first season, to be very temperamental. Hopefully, he learned from that. Look back at himself. All of us broadcasters, if you're ever going to make it in this business, Jake, this. I mean, you got to listen back to yourself. You got to, you got to make sure that you're putting out what you believe you're putting out. You can't just ignore, the things that are coming out of your mouth and the way that you operate in television. I have to constantly look at myself. How am I expressing myself? Be careful. Get your hands down. I can do a lot more handsy stuff here in this world, but on TV, I had to be like very calm and collected and much more subtle movements. And I learned that is not my natural temperament at all, as most people know, listening to me for 5 minutes. So yeah, so you gotta look back at the film, dare I say, Boy Green, football term. All right.
Sure.
And evaluate here and say, what am I doing? How can I be better? And so hopefully Aaron Glenn is a smart enough man to do that. I got to believe that hopefully he was humbled by that year. Are there anything, Jake, that come out of the OTAs here that you say are worth really, really talking about or mentioning, or that are moments? I mean, the thing that stands out to me, and really isn't anything that happened, it's something that we found out, was Kenyon Sadiq and the hernia. So that kind of stands out as, wow, that's kind of disappointing that this guy had this, and did we know about this, and so on and so forth. So, but what, if anything, you can include that or not, has come out of OTAs that you think is worth mentioning?
Yeah, I actually was going to say the Sadiq injury, unfortunately, just because, again, I don't want to panic. They say he'll be ready for training camp. Rich Cimini reported that on our Jets Collective, that he will definitely be ready for training camp, and I believe Rich is reporting on that. But, we're Jet fans. A lot of us are, over the years, a little adversarial to the idea of a tight end in the first round anyway, and then here we go. The one time we finally take the tight end in the first round, he's banged up and is not out there during OTAs. I think you want to make it through these next couple of weeks through minicamp. No more injuries. Be as healthy as you possibly could be for training camp, and you go from there. So I think that's definitely a storyline we're following. And just, how quickly some of the rookies get acclimated into things beyond Sadiq. I read that Omar Cooper Jr. had several nice plays yesterday. You like hearing that. David Bailey apparently looked good in some reps. You like hearing that for the second pick in the draft. So that's kind of what you're looking at here. Just, the younger players, how they get acclimated into things, and just that dynamic with Geno and Frank Reich in this offense.
Jake, here's my last one for you. It's sort of a two-parter, I guess. You're a very passionate guy. You have takes, obviously, radio, digital, everywhere. You have takes, and there are things that, things happen, and you have a strong take on it one way or the other. But you just mentioned it. You're going to have like Zach Rosenblatt on the show, who's a beat reporter, and he's covering the team, and he's all over the place. And sometimes maybe he could give information that changes your opinion on a subject matter. And I'm curious, I want to bring up an example from the Jets Collective podcast. This was not from your guys' episode yesterday. It was from last week on the Brendan Sorsby thing. Rich Cimini tells you guys in the group chat, hey, I actually heard from a scout. I want to share it on the show. And it was a negative review of Sorsby as a player on the field. And that scout told Rich he believes he's a day 3 pick. There's other people that think he would be a first-round pick in the 2027 NFL draft. So you hear this information and hear more about the gambling stuff. And I've heard that you are a proponent, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. You do a better job than any of words coming out of your mouth, that on this Sorsby thing, that you are open potentially to the Jets using some selection if he's available in the supplemental draft. When you get information like that from Rich, from a scout, it's one man's opinion, but that scout giving I'm not so sure on this guy. And then you hear more about the gambling stuff. How does that change a take that you have? So that's a specific example, but in general, when you have all these influential people on your shows, beat reporters, media members, other things, and then how you balance that new information with the takes you already have.
Yeah, I always keep an open mind. So if that's one scout's opinion, well, I want to hear what other people think. I heard Rich, obviously on the show, I heard Rich, mention the comments that he got from the scout. I've also heard people I really respect, like Connor Rogers, say that, yeah, he probably would be a guy that could go in the first round because he's got first round traits and probably third round tape. And that's probably a guy that gets overdrafted. Right. So I try to do is just take in as much info as I can to help me formulate my opinion. So that's kind of how I view it. If I get information that will alter my opinion, I'm always happy to change my opinion or admit I'm wrong. Heck, we were talking about the Knicks. I was a huge Tom Thibodeau supporter, did not think it was the right move to move on from Tibbs after they reached the conference finals last year. Well, Mike Brown's proven to be an awesome coach, and that move has proven to be justified with the Knicks playing as well as they have, getting to the finals. It's actually the 1-year anniversary of the Knicks moving on from Tibbs. So I'm always open for new information. And unlike some people, I think in sports media, like I am rooting for myself to be wrong if it benefits the teams that I root for. Like, I am a Knick fan. I'm thrilled that Mike Brown's awesome. I am a Jet fan. If Aaron Glenn is great and he leads them to the playoffs, I'll be leading the campaign to say he's the coach of the year, and I was wrong ever questioning him as a coach. So that's kind of how I view it. Like, I have my opinions, but I'm always open to changing them and try to be as informed as I can when I give them.
So specifically here, did Samini's comments and any other criticisms you've potentially, again, the gambling stuff is just out there from all these people reporting it, of betting on Romanian soccer and Turkish basketball, and obviously the stuff that's super serious with his team and all this stuff. Has any of that information or what Rich shared has changed your take on whether or not you believe the Jets should invest a supplemental pick if Brendan Swearsby is in the supplemental draft at the end of July? Has your opinion at all changed based on this new information that's been presented in your direction?
Not really, because I don't have the strongest like desire to use a premium pick on Sorsby. I haven't watched him, so I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert on him. My thing is, if the Jets like the tape, they think he's a talented player, and they wanted to invest a 3rd-round pick, I'm okay with that. But I'm also not going to go and do like the full-on tape study and pretend like I'm a scout. I see the talent. I know he's highly regarded. If they wanted to take a flyer on him for a day 2, like a 3rd rounder or a 4th rounder, I wouldn't be devastated if they did that. I think there's too big of a risk just with his play on the field being an uncertainty, and now this gambling situation. I think there's too big of a risk to use a 2nd-round pick or a 1st-round pick on him. So that's kind of my take on Sorsby. If they took him, as long as it's within reason, I understand it. I don't think the Jets are going to swim in those waters, though, at the end of the day.
All right. Well, Jake, we're brothers in arms these days with the New York Knickerbockers trying to get this thing done. Come on, man. Let's end that 53-year bleeping drought. I'm coming down to New York.
Crazy.
I'm leaving tomorrow. I'll be down there for some of this frenzy. Going to try and enjoy it. Going to get out to some of these crazy pubs and some places and see what the heck is going down there. Crazy, crazy New York. It's going to be a
I
lot
love
of
it.
fun.
Message me when you're here, Jim, and we'll have to link up.
All right. We'll see if we can make a hookup. That'd be awesome. All right. Jake Asman, thanks as always, my friend. Always good to talk to you.
Let's go, Knicks. Appreciate you guys having me.